You're listening to the Dad Whisperer podcast with Dr. Michelle Watson Canfield, the place where you, as a dad, will gain more tools for your fathering toolbox, and where moms and daughters are also invited to listen into the conversation. Now, here is your host, Dr. Michelle Watson Canfield.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Dad Whisperer podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Michelle Watson Canfield, and I welcome you here, especially if you're a girl dad who wants to add more tools to your fathering toolbox. Well, you know the conversation every week. Say it with me. On your mark, get set, go. So get an image in your mind, Dad, of standing there with other dads. Think of a track. You're doing track and field. You're getting ready to run another lap around the field. I'm on the sidelines as your coach, cheering you on and saying, on your mark, get set, go. On your mark is always the topic or the theme. Get set, going to fill that in with stories and stats. And go is always your practical action step, because every time we meet, I want you to have some takeaway that you can put your love for your daughters and even your sons into action this week and even today. Well, I have a guest coach joining me today who, I'll say it this way, I had to pay big bucks for this one. It's my husband, actually, Dr. Ken Canfield. You know him by now, founder of the National Center for Fathering in 1990, speaker on the Promise Keepers circuit for years. He actually has a national and international footprint. I'll even brag on him a little bit. I know he won the Polish Presidential Medal of Honor years ago, has worked in the White House under different administrations. And I love the fact that he's a respected voice, not only in the fathering space, but in other arenas as well. And so to have him here is such an honor. And thank you, Ken, for joining me.
You are welcome. I look forward to a home-cooked dinner. I'll kick back and you can feed me bombs for dessert.
There you go.
This is really good, what we're going to talk about today.
No, actually, what's funny, y'all, is I don't really cook. So anything that would involve me doing something with cooking is actually quite a joke, which is going to be a great segue. We'll hold that off for a minute on our first part of our conversation today, because on your mark today is called H.E.A.R.T Fathering, the emotive side of being a girl dad. And H.E.A.R.T today is an acronym. If you know me and you've listened to the Dad Whisperer before, you know I love a good acronym because it's such a great way to have a hook in your mind to remember principles or organization or goals or whatever it is. I always used that trick and that tool when I was in school, and I'm sure you've used it as well. So if you want to be a dialed-in dad emotionally to your daughter's heart, which you know is a theme, has been for years here, is you're going to love what Ken shares today as we have this conversation about H.E.A.R.T fathering. Okay, so drum roll, here we go. Ken, set the foundation. What's the H, the first letter of the word heart, and how can dads dial into their daughter's heart more intentionally?
Well, here is where I think we as dads need to learn from our daughters. Having 3 daughters, 2 daughter-in-laws, 9 granddaughters, you have to tune in to the emotive side. So all of these letters deal with the emotive side of life. And you're going to like these, Dad, because number 1, the H is for dad jokes. Now, what I mean by that, it's really laughter and humor. H for humor. If you can't laugh about what's going on in the relational part of your life, you're missing an infusion of endorphins that will make you just shine. And those belly laughs or those chuckles they're irreplaceable. Now, dads, I know your little girl when she was young, you would just be amazed by the things she says, what she does, and you would laugh about that. As they mature, that laughing has to become a more serious look where it's self-deprecating. And
you mean like making sure you're not laughing at her.
Oh, absolutely.
But you're laughing with her.
With her. And that you're revealing yourself, because the heart of a father needs to be expressed. So when I started talking about dad jokes, the more that you can joke about yourself and bring that in. And I remember when I paid my kids, $5, I think, to imitate me. Oh man, it was embarrassing.
I've never heard that story.
Oh yeah, at the dinner table. And they'd come in and I have this thing where I'd move my hand through my hair and I'd look over here and this and that. And what it was is here they were imitating me. Now, if they did it in some other manner, I could get upset, but it was hilarious. So think of those things that can bring the humor into your relationship. And that begins with you leading the way, Dad.
But I think what's funny, Ken, is that you're saying you paid them.
Yeah.
You paid them to imitate you.
Well, yeah, whoever was the best, and they won $5.
That is funny. Well, this reminds me a little bit of how my dad used to say to me, Michelle, you just need to lighten up. And you know me. I'm serious. I take things seriously. I always say I'm committed to excellence. Let's call it that, not perfectionism. But the humor kind of piece of my development is something that I love laughing. I love laughter. I love joy, right? They're joined at the hip, joy and laughter. And yet sometimes I need help finding the humor in things, because I would say to my dad, I will lighten up when the thing I'm stressed about is taken care of.
Yes.
So what would you say to the dad that says, my daughter, the older she's gotten, she's so serious, she's so committed and studious and is stressed all the time. And I try to help her laugh and she either gets offended or takes it seriously or barks back at me. What do you say to that, Dad?
Well, don't get riled up about it. Just go on and be who you are. And when you can bring laughter and levity into it, that humor does something. It creates a bond. Now, here's something we have to avoid. We have to avoid laughing with sarcasm or an insulting way. This is not good unless, you want to bring it to yourself. My kids love to hear some of the funniest things that I did. And then they look at me and say, oh my gosh, he's our dad. Can you believe he did that? And when they see and hear that, I'm opening them up. Well, tell me something funny you did or you saw somebody else do. And I always love to find a good joke or pass it on. That's something that is as important as a good story or a good Bible verse.
Well, it's funny that you say, dad jokes, because where I've been frustrated is, I look on Amazon, like number 1, 2, 3 in fathering books is always the dad joke.
Exactly.
I'm thinking it would be way easier to write a dad joke book than a deep book with profound research backing it up. But there you go. It shows you where men are at. And so really what I love that you're saying, Ken, is Dad, lean in to a gift. You may not have thought of it that way, that you already have.
Yes.
And find a way to join with your daughter to bring humor. And a really practical way, I would say, Dad, is that if you ever want to sit at the computer, just put in your search engine like funny videos about ... whatever. And you can sit side by side looking at a screen together and laughing. Because I think about, Ken, there's times you laugh over the funniest things of like people bombing things and falling over trees while they're climbing it and stuff that is just stupid, right?
Yes.
And you're laughing at someone else, but you think it's not at their expense because they put it on there.
Absolutely. I know. I could see myself doing just the same. And so it's interesting you mentioned that. At fathers.com, the most frequent place is dad humor.
What?
Did you know that?
No.
Yeah. Brock had a great idea putting together top 10 lists of things dads shouldn't do. And, at one time, a late night host had his top 10. He did the same thing. And we were looking at it. We thought it was fathering statistics or how to be a great dad, this and that. No, it was fathering humor. And dads, in the seriousness and the responsibility of being the father that they want to be to their kids, they need to have that humor, the levity to lift the whole family.
I'm going to say one more thing before we go on to the E, which is that in Let's Talk, the book that I wrote for Dads of Daughters, the second book, which is a practical action book, right, for dads, the whole first section, I have 5 L's, is lead her to laugh. Because you and I are on the same page there, Ken, in knowing how important this is for dads to use that gift, as I just said earlier, to help their daughters laugh. So a couple questions I have in there is like, Dad, ask your daughter, what item of my clothing would you love to see me get rid of?
Oh, yes.
Let her make fun of you.
That's right.
Like you're saying, What do I do that embarrasses you? What do I do that's funny to you? Find ways to ask her questions. And if you don't know what to ask her, to help her laugh and you laugh, don't take yourself too seriously. Let her make fun of your clothes. Let her make fun of you. But that's a practical way that you can activate humor even today. Okay.
Spot on.
Humor. H-E. Give us the E, Ken.
Enjoyment. Now, this is important. We're talking about the emotive side of your fathering heart. There's something when you beam joy with your children when you're together. Now, I've often done this when we're outside sporting, doing things like water skiing is the big thing. You know, when to see one of your kids, your daughter get up on skis, I mean, there's a sense of satisfaction, but you really enjoy ramping up the motor and seeing them crash. No, I did do that. I have to. When they were on a tube. But anyway, but enjoying them when they accomplish something, saying you're so proud
or
of
when
them.
they don't.
Yeah.
How do you still enjoy who they are, even if what they do?
That's a little hard because they're feeling bad themselves. And so that's more of a comforting thing. But enjoying them when they do something, you know, simple. And doing that together when you're outside or when you're working on a project. So often I had my kids work with me. We'd do a project here or there. We'd not only clean the house together, we'd go outside and build something, girls and boys. We'd figure out a problem. I'd take them on hiking trips and so forth. And there was a sense of enjoyment that they're right alongside. It's almost like your spirit is attuned to them, you know, as you're with them and seeing them experience things. So that enjoyment is something that we need to identify and beam those messages of joy. That I'm so glad I'm your dad and you're my daughter.
And again, you guys have heard me talk about it before. A great way to express your joy and love for being a dad is write with dry erase markers on her mirror that message or put it on sticky notes. Okay, Ken, I'm going to go back and I want to run this by you because I had said, and even when she doesn't achieve something, and you're like, okay, that's more comfort. But let me run something by you. When I think of my mentor's definition of joy, what it's been is that joy is you're happy to see me.
Sure.
And I say, especially as women, we're reading your eyes, we're reading your face. Like, what do we get as a mirrored response back? So I've heard so many daughters through my actually 45 years of mentoring young women, teenagers, and 30 years of counseling, is so often with tears streaming down their face, they'll say, I'm a disappointment to my dad, or I don't want to see him disappointed in me.
Sure.
So that's why I don't tell him when I blow it, because I don't like that look. So I wonder if there is a way for a dad to still have joy when his daughter doesn't get it right. Maybe you would say it's not joy in who she is, even if what she didn't meet a bar. What would you say about that?
Yeah, I would say this is an extension of your DNA. Unless you're, let's say, a father figure or a stepfather, whatever, you beaming messages of joy, even during the downtime, eye to eye, face to face, being able to pick her up and knowing that your presence makes a difference. I know that whoever you're fathering right now, whatever daughter, they are going to be a better woman because of your investment. When you enjoy them, they are going to be happy taking care of you when you're in the nursing home, when you're old, and I'm joking here, but that enjoyment is reciprocal.
Yes.
As you age and mature and go through things, they're going to enjoy seeing you, showing up and doing the things that you may have done with them, but in a different way that you might be doing with their children down the road. But that's down the road.
Okay, Ken, I've got to say one more thing about the E under joy that I learned years ago. I have no idea how this research was ever actually put together, but I learned this from my mentor who said that there are 6 cycles per second in a joy exchange between two people. And you were talking about it being reciprocal. Absolutely. That's the second powerful thing, is that joy bounces off each other so that my joy increases your joy increases my joy. So this whole idea of being an emotive girl dad really is very much tied into the power of joy.
Yes.
So I'm so glad you highlighted that and brought that up.
Spot on.
Okay, segue into the A. Give me the A. What does that stand for?
Anguish.
Okay, now that one surprises me.
It should, because dads
Anguish.
are not easily getting down at that level to build emotional synchrony.
So you're talking about anguishing with your daughter?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And
feeling
going
her
through,
pain.
Absolutely. This is something that we weren't tuned in or wired easily to do. But when you go through, not just monthly, but through tough things like girl fights, like leaving home, like, a big blow up with mother and daughter, when you can identify with those low points, that is going to be a super investment in your daughter.
You're right. So in fact, there's a term that we talk about in my field of psychology called trauma bonding, and that we bond more with the people that we go through trauma with. Like I think of the people in 9/11 in the staircases.
Oh, yes.
They will forever be bonded
Forever.
because they went through the hard stuff together.
Yes.
So a dad might think, I'm not wired for this. Here, Mom, you go in. You're
Right.
a girl. But your connection and bond with your daughter will be increased, right?
Yes.
If a dad can sit with her anguish. And the thing I got to highlight too is that some dads have told me that they have the fix it gene in their head. Like, wait, she's in distress. I need to fix her or fix it.
No.
What would you say to that, Dad, Ken?
Listen, one of the secrets of effective fathers is active listening. You deal with anguish by another A, actively listening. Now, she may not make the team. She may not achieve what she wants. She may go through a personal crisis and something that totally surprises you. If you listen and don't fix, if you attune to her, that synchrony, and this is so important, the research surrounding those that break up, let's say in a marriage, particularly after they've had a hard time, the death of a child, it's they grieve out of sync. They're unable to get on the same page. Now, the way that you can prepare your daughter, who likely is going to, go off someday, no telling how she's going to be led. Maybe she marries, has children. If she knows how to deal with the low points in her life because she has history with another man of doing it, when she hits a hard time, she will know what to do and what this guy she may be married to will likely respond with and be able to lead him in a way by just pouring out her words over and over to him.
And her emotion.
And her emotion. And that's what we're talking about.
And Dad, what we want to also do is honor the fact that you probably will think of your daughter's reactions as either over-exaggerated, kind of maybe hyperdrive, where you think, this is nothing to be having a fit over, or what she's melting down over to you seems really, I would say, insignificant. And so, Dad, she'll pick that up. So remind yourself, you're not going to maybe be in sync when you talk about that with what she's grieving over, and that's normal.
Yeah.
But that you validate her mountains in her life, even though to you they may feel like a molehill.
Yes.
But that you don't make fun of her, which we already addressed that in the H. But that you stay in sync with her, and there's 3 key words that she will love, which is just tell me more. So as she's talking, as you said, Ken, and even crying, emoting, and telling you the girl drama stories or the things that make her mad or sad, is that the whole time you're saying, tell me more, because you will expand your capacity for sitting with her distress. Another word for anguish. You can practice expanding like a muscle, what we call your window of tolerance. You may go, I can't handle that. Here, Mom, you go in. You're a girl. No, like we're highlighting, sitting with her, holding her tears.
Yes.
You will bond with her even more. And maybe you've heard that old quote, she won't care as much about what you know till she knows how much you care.
Spot on.
So that A is something that, Dad, if that isn't your default setting where you're like, I'm not really good at that, you can grow your capacity to sit with her anguish, right?
Right.
That can grow.
Yes.
I want to say one more thing before we hop off this letter, which is that in my book, Let's Talk, I remember you, Ken, saying out of all the L's, the 5 L's, lead her to, laugh. Like I said earlier, lead her to love, lead her to look.
And the L that was the best is lament. Lead her to lament. Now, you would say, why would I do that? Because it's part of her growth. And yours too, Dad. This lamenting, again, is key. So listening to lament, getting low, is going to be something that will distinguish you as an effective dad.
And Ken, you told me that you thought that L, the last one is listen, but you said the lament section you believed was the most important part of that book. Why?
Well, simply because everything is melting down. The whole earth is lamenting. The whole culture is lamenting, and right now very caustic. And so as you groan and grow and groan,
they do go together, don't they?
Absolutely is going to be something that your daughter is going to face. And Dad, you can lead the way by listening again.
And using a physical metaphor on this lament idea is that if you have a physical injury, your entire body is limited in capacity by the injury. So when your daughter has an internal hurt, an internal injury, even if to you it seems, irrelevant, over-exaggerated, not important, whatever it is, but honoring that it's big to her is a way that you pace with her and what she finds distressing. Because remember this whole thing you said, Ken, about the culture lamenting, is it seems that a lot of the things that show up on social media are the tragedies, right?
Yes.
They're the suicides
everywhere,
or the killings or the murders and the riots and all the intense causes where people are against each other. That's affecting your daughter. We call it vicarious traumatization. And so if your daughter is very much in anguish over something that you think you don't even know this person, you don't need to say that. Just keep asking her those 3 words. Tell me more. Tell me more why that impacts you. Tell me more. Help me understand you more. Dad, another line I love to tell you to use is, I know I don't understand, but I want to understand. Help me understand. So there it is. I know I don't understand, but I want to understand. Help me understand. Is that a way, Ken, you would say?
Of
a dad
course.
can expand his capacity
and that's
for
it.
this being able to pace with her anguish, even if to you it seems irrelevant, inconsequential, unimportant. And if you want more help on that, Dad, about, I address lots of topics in that Lead Her to Lament on maybe she needs to lament and hurts from you.
Yes.
Things that way. Or you can make amends in that section for hurtful words you've spoken. Maybe it's tragedy in your family, trauma and tragedy in your family. Like there's been divorce or an affair or maybe there's conflict with siblings.
What's so good about your book is you have scripts for dads to get in tune with the lamenting, as well as the loving and the listening and the laughing and so forth. These scripts are invaluable because they give you a boost, a foundation to really work from.
Well, this has been awesome. I love having you here, Ken. Thank you so much for breaking down this emotive side of fathering. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, I'm going to continue my conversation with my husband, Dr. Ken Canfield, as we talk about heart fathering, the emotive side of fathering. We'll be right back.
Are you a dad who has ever desired a deeper connection with your daughter, but haven't known how to go about it? Let's Talk, Conversation Starters for Dads and Daughters is the very resource you need. Dr. Michelle wrote it with you dads in mind. This book will support you with scripted questions, equip you to decode your daughter, and inspire you with stories of other dads and daughters. Don't wait any longer to be the hero you want to be and that your daughter needs you to be. So, to let the talking begin, head on over to drmichellewatson.com/books and order your copy today. This book will become a favorite in your fathering toolbox and will give you the answers you've been looking for. That's drmichellewatson.com/books. Now, back to the Dad Whisperer podcast.
Welcome back. I'm here today with author and influencer, renowned expert on fathering, my husband, Dr. Ken Canfield. Today we're talking about heart fathering, the emotive side of being a girl dad. Okay, break it down. H-E-A-R-T. The H is?
Humor.
E?
Enjoyment.
A?
Anguish.
Now the R. What's the R? Drum roll.
The R is reflection. To the extent that you can look back and go through life's challenges and passages with your daughter, it's going to be profound. It gives her a sense of history. It enhances her dignity. One of the great things I like to do is look at those old snapshots. Remember those pictures we used to take and get doubles of them?
You get a camera roll and take them down and get
absolutely
them, printed, and you had no idea, right, what was on there.
And when you see that and see them and walk through, I remember you like this. I remember this time. And hopefully with today's devices, you can capture them. Always be aware that you give a definition to what I'd say are milestones in her development. So reflecting back on those, seeing successes, challenges, and failures is going to be a benefit to her. And it's going to also push you into a reflection mode too, because you are developing as a dad too. In some ways, the way you fathered your oldest daughter may be different than the way you father your youngest daughter. So you reflecting and getting better at the work God's giving you is going to make you a stellar dad.
So what are some practical ways, Ken, that a dad can actually put this into action? Because I think reflecting to me sounds a bit like a cognitive term, like it's contemplative, thinking about how you were a dad last year. But I think we can think all we want and not put that into action. How can a dad practically kind of reflect on where he was a year ago or where he was 6 months ago? What have you done or what have you heard dads do that are effective?
Well, one I mentioned, using photography or using something that gives you a picture. The second is there are artifacts in your house. It may have been, I remember when you got this blue ribbon. You were in the first grade, and I think everybody got a blue ribbon, but I especially like yours. You don't have to go back to that, but using tangible things to reflect and say, oh, I remember this and that. Hopefully, as you change out the pictures on the wall each year, you can say, my, you've grown so much. The other thing is reflecting back on those women that your daughter looks to as models, reflecting back on their character and say, you remind me of Aunt Sadie or, grandma. And when
your mom.
Exactly. For sure, your mom. And then what you do is you give them a point of reference. So reflecting on specifics and then giving story to reflection. Because like you said, reflection can be cognitive, it can be abstract, so you have to boil it down to something that is so important to you that you want to see emulated or lived out in your daughter's life. And when you see that, brag about her to your friends and others, hopefully when she's listening.
Right.
And that is something that, again, boosts her self-esteem and makes her a real, what I'd say, champion of heart.
Yeah, she'll lean into being more of that because she wants to see you proud of her. And I just want to highlight one more thing before we finish with our last letter, which is that on this one of reflection, I hear you, Ken, highlighting two aspects to it. So one prong is you're doing reflective conversations with your daughter. I remember when I saw character in you when I'm noticing, and we're reflecting back together. But then the other prong is a dad reflecting on himself as a dad.
Yes.
And saying, I'm going to look back at where I was as a dad even a year ago or 6 months ago. Maybe set goals on a card. I would add that one, is I think they need to be measurable. We talk about SMART goals, right? But one of them is you have to be able to know what it was a year ago that you set as a goal. I want to get angry less. I want to listen twice as much as I talk, or whatever it is, so that you're growing with your daughter. Okay, drum roll to the last letter. What is the T of heart fathering?
Okay, you get a double dose, Sarah, because I have two T's.
Okay, you can have two T's.
Okay, for this, it's tenderness. and tenacity. Now, you may say those are kind of extremes. Tenderness is softness, approachable, easy. Tenacity is strength. But tenderness is so vital because our words, and Dad, now I'm talking to myself, the way that we speak, our words have power. If we come with a tender word or a soft answer, as so it's written, it turns away times of trouble and difficulty or even anger. And then when we push our daughters in the right way to achieve something, you build this sense of tenacity as they begin to see and develop things that are going to exceed you. You know, dads, this is the deal. Your daughters, in some ways, are more astute and smarter than you are. That doesn't mean they're going to have more educational or informational stuff, but just because they have observed you and followed your lead, they are going to move beyond where you and I were and are. And so that's where tenacity is so important, that you build and let out the rope and in one sense, give them a little push as they go forward and be their cheerleader along the way.
So I want to go back to the tenderness part,
Yes.
which you're probably not surprised that I would hone in on that word. So tenderness, you think about being gentle,
Right.
more emotive, softer perhaps even, which I've always loved that term in the Bible about fathers needing to turn their hearts. God commands that to fathers. That's why it's said that way, because my belief is it's not intuitive,
Right.
but that when a dad leans into becoming a more tender, emotive dad, you become better men in all of your relationships. Your daughter is giving you really a practice round where you're like, you're going to father her different than your son. You're going to respond to her different than someone else, where you have to slow down and be softer and more emotive. And that is what turning your heart looks like, right?
Right. Where you can see very clearly the mother of your child, your daughter, or whoever you're fathering as a daughter, maybe a stepdad, it makes no difference. The way tenderness is modeled to that person who gave you the privilege of being a dad is going to be picked up. And so what we need to do is not only understand how important this is to an adult daughter who you may be married to because somebody was either harsh, tender, supportive, or maybe discouraging. Your tenderness brings healing. So when you think of this emotive side, tenderness is kind of that oil that brings healing. And, you know, the words that we say, and that alone will be a difference maker. Those really stick more than you ever understand, and particularly for a daughter.
Absolutely. And Dad, remember that your daughter will internalize the way you speak to her, and not just the words, but how you say what you say. So if you have a daughter that's really hard on herself, sets really high goals and can't ever get it right, I would encourage you to ask yourself, do you need to grow in tenderness? Which kind of goes back to the reflection piece. Ask yourself, you may have tenacity, you know how to go the distance, and you're encouraging your daughter not to give up.
Right.
But probably for most dads listening with a daughter, tenderness might be something you could really increase.
Yes, I agree. But Dad, you were called to push these children out into the adult world. You were called to help prepare them. So this tenacity, I know that is more a testosterone-driven, trait. But giving them that, at a girl, you can do anything, will help them as they mother maybe grandchildren, that you are going to have opportunity to do over those things that you wanted to do better as a dad. You take care of those tender, tenacious young women, and they may bless you with other granddaughters.
Come on. And I'll just put a little plug. Ken also founded the National Association for Grandparenting.
Oh,
At
yeah.
Grandkids Matter. If you want more resources, Granddad, because you can go to that website, because I love the fact that you talked earlier about reflection and the stories, because I think of how often our grandkids
Yes.
say to you, tell us stories about our mom
Right.
or our dad, because they want to hear those stories.
Yes.
So really this does have generational impact, doesn't
Sure
it?
it does.
Okay, so I'm going to go back through the 5 H.E.A.R.T,
Okay.
letters of fathering. And then I'm going to, after I finish those, have you end with giving dads one practical action step that kind of synthesizes all of this on the emotive side of fathering and being a girl dad. Okay, the H, humor. It's about
Yes.
laughing together.
Absolutely.
E is enjoyment.
Yes.
Which is the joy of being a dad.
Oh, yes.
A, anguish.
Get down, get
is
low.
facing the hard stuff.
Yes.
With her and on your own. R,
Is
reflection.
the history. Oh, bring that to the forefront and make it tangible,
And you called it looking back to move forward.
right?
And then tenderness and tenacity.
Yes.
Which are the powerful duo
Yes.
to hit all of this out of the ballpark. So
Yes.
Ken, having said all that, talk to the dad right now that says, where do I start? You just gave me a lot. What would you say to that, Dad?
Just choose one of these and put it into practice. It may be a humorous story you tell about which is self-deprecating your own life. It may be looking at your daughter eye to eye and just say, I never thought I'd have the joy of being a dad to a daughter. It may be going down and getting low where they are. But I know this, when you get in tune with the heart that God has given you, you're activating the heart of another father, an expansive father who creates and does miracles. And so this emotive side, I think, is the doorway that we need to walk through and do so recognizing we're not going to do it right. But remember, the mark of a dad is not whether he fails. I know I've failed and you may fail. It's what he does after he fails.
Come on.
He gets up and he goes forward and he learns and he becomes a better dad and man because of it.
So good. Thanks, Dr. Ken Canfield, for joining me today. Well, today, On Your Mark has been heart fathering, the emotive side of being a girl dad. Thank you, Dr. Ken Canfield, for joining me. It's been a joy. There you go. I used the E. It's been an enjoyable time to be here with you today. Well, this wraps up another week's program. It's been great to be here with you all. I'm Dr. Michelle Watson Canfield, the Dad Whisperer, signing off and encouraging you to make today a day where you intentionally and consistently invest in pursuing your daughter's heart. Go Dads.
Thanks for joining us for another edition of the Dad Whisperer podcast with Dr. Michelle Watson Canfield. If you're looking for more resources to support the father-daughter relationship, or if you want to connect personally with Dr. Michelle, you can find all the information you need at drmichellewatson.com. That's drmichellewatson.com. And remember, you can listen to the Dad Whisperer podcast anytime on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and Google Podcasts. And while you're there, we'd love for you to subscribe and leave us a review. Thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you again on the next edition of the Dad Whisperer podcast with Dr. Michelle Watson Canfield.